Open your incognito browsers. It's time to talk about porn. I'm sorry. I debated about a day on putting that joke in, and then I decided to roll with it. Hi, I'm Emily. Today we're talking about porn. If you came here to watch porn, there was no actual porn in this, and I'm sorry. You can find that elsewhere on the internet. Sorry. Okay. As you can tell, this is going to be more of a lax presentation because I figured, hey, I'm talking about porn, and if I try to talk to you in a really stuffy manner about porn, it's just going to be uncomfortable for everyone. So, moving forward. I bet that was a seamless transition, and you definitely couldn't tell I started a different recording on this slide. Anyway, you might have heard that prostitution is the oldest profession, and that is pretty true. Ever since humans have been on this earth, there have been sex workers. And so now we're talking about, not really going to get into the whole history of sex work, because sex work is not necessarily pornography. Pornography is more like the visual representation of a sexual act. So the oldest porn was discovered in 2005 and was a cave painting done in 5200 BCE. So that's like the oldest known one. There was no doubt produced porn before this time, but at this time, porn is just going to be drawings or erotic writings, because obviously they didn't have any cameras. And if you're wondering what this saucy cave painting was, it was a man and a woman making love. So moving forward, everybody had porn. Even the most stuffy, hoity-toity advanced society you can think of, you bet they had porn. The Greeks had it, the Romans had it, the Asian continent had it, everybody had it. More specific, so again, at this time, porn was art and porn was writing. So people would get in trouble for drawing nudes of prostitutes, especially French prostitutes. I'm not taking that from the movie Titanic. It's really actually a thing that was happening. Then they'd get in trouble for drawing women who were nude, that weren't based on pure imagination, but were based on actual models. I know it's really silly, but it was kind of like the stipulation there. And then obscenity charges, especially with writings. So one of the first obscenity charges was in the 1500s, and guess who was doing it? Ah, you guessed it, it was the church. And they decided a bunch of books should be banned because of their obscene content and that they weren't allowed to be part of the normal literature. So moving forward into like the 1700s and the 1800s, we had a lot of obscenity charges. A big one was Fanny Hill, was written by, sorry, I'm pulling it right up, John Cleland, and was published in 1748. The alternate title was Memoir of a Woman of Pleasure. So naturally, it was a book about a woman who was a sex worker. So it included a lot of sex. And there were a lot of issues with that. It was banned, and then it was not banned, then it was banned, then it was not banned. And it still goes in and out of being banned even to this day. So then, onto that was the Marquis de Sade, whose last name inspired the word sadism. There's a movie, you can watch it. I still think it's on Netflix. It's called Quills. It's a little bit about him. And he was a French, aristocratic man who had some sadistic tendencies, because that's his name. But the issue was he would often do these things with people who were not super consenting. So he would get sent to prison, and then his wife would bail him out. Then he would do it again, and he'd get sent to prison, and his wife would bail him out. If you're wondering why his wife kept bailing him out, she couldn't have him dragging her family's good name through the mud. And he would also write really sadistic literature, featuring the torture of women for sexual ends. He got in trouble for writing these. He got put in prison at one point, and at this point his wife was like, we're done. So he was in prison for quite a while, writing and still producing plays that were produced at the prison. And then von Sacher-Masoch, whose name inspired masochism. Ed Sade and Masoch's paths did not cross, because they would have been totally best friends. But von Sacher-Masoch was, into the opposite side of that. He liked receiving the pain, so he wrote books about that and also got in trouble. So then moving past the writing period, we moved into the film world. And before, good old home film, if you wanted to go see a porn, you had to go see it in a movie theater. And I know for some people that would sound absolutely horrifying, but for a lot of people that's what they did, and it was the only thing they had to do. Well, the 70s was the golden age of porn because, the VHS came out. So porn was being produced left and right because you could take this and porn and you could watch it in the comfort of your own home, and you didn't have to be there with anyone, and nobody had to know. And this was the time like Deep Throat came out and all these really big porns, and porn didn't hit the mainstream, but was definitely getting up there. Moving online. So the first porn site was in 1994. So just like a few years after The internet came, we got porn on there pretty quick. Um, and so actually, all your favorite YouTube stars have porn to thank for being able to stream because streaming wasn't really a thing until porn introduced it. So this has affected the porn industry financially because people don't really buy porn DVDs anymore. They don't buy porn magazines. Everything's online. And even with it being online, people don't always want to buy it. I'm sure if you've seen porn, most of the porn you've seen is the free porn. Not a lot of people pay for porn anymore. So because of that, the porn industry has had to adapt. There's more fetish sites that cater to like niche things you wouldn't be able to find elsewhere. More interactive media such as cam girls, which are girls who perform live on camera. People come and watch and they can give money to have the girl do specific things, and it feels more intimate in a way because the girl could be directly addressing you. Just basically anything at all to make people pay for something they could get for free now. So here's some negative effects of pornography. Besides issues of morality and what's right and what's wrong, which I'm not entirely going to get into in this presentation because it's a whole different argument, the biggest argument against porn is that it ruins relationships because of unrealistic expectations. So a lot of young people go into romantic and sexual relationships and all they've learned about sexuality is from porn, and porn is not a truthful representation of what a sexual relationship looks like for the most part. So they come in with the wrong ideas. And especially, so this is similar to cheating one. When I first heard that, I was like, no, watching a porn video isn't like cheating on someone. Well, maybe that isn't, but what if you're watching a cam girl? What if you're watching a girl who is directly addressing you and you're paying her to do things and she's chatting? Is that cheating? So then there's sexual, like it's sexist and exploitation of women. So in like 1/3 of porn, there is violence, and 94% of the time that violence is directed towards women. And in the documentaries I've been watching about women in the porn industry, even the ones who feel empowered know that they're a sex object in most porn. There's a very small number of porn that is catered towards women and to glorifying women and to not treating them as a sex object. So moving into the very, very dark side of porn. So I didn't want to get too much into this because, well, one, it's a major bummer, and two, it's a whole different topic completely. And by the very dark side, I especially mean child pornography, non-consensual videos, and then snuff films. So child pornography, as much as we want to pretend it isn't real, it is real, and it's a multi-million-dollar business, and it's awful, and it's coercing children into doing things that they don't understand. But it's a thing, and it's a business, and it's a business that stemmed from, the porn business. Two, non-consensual acts. For the most part, if you're watching a porn video, as over the top as it might seem, or hardcore as it might seem, most of the time that is all smoke and mirrors. None of that is actually happening. But there are instances of non-consensual videos, of rapes being live streamed, and that's very problematic. Three are snuff films. So if you don't know what a snuff film is, it's a video where someone is killed on camera, and it's usually in a sexual nature. And the media and television really likes to talk about this version because not that it's glamorous, but it's the more interesting of the three. It's just, it arouses our dark side and people like to talk about it. It's not as big as a thing as the other two, especially not as big as a thing as child pornography, but it is still a thing that does happen. So, getting off of major bummer and moving into positive effects of porn. Porn is a safe channel for sexual fantasy. One might have fantasies that they would not feel comfortable partaking in with a partner. So porn can be there to give you a way to channel those fantasies. And if handled correctly, one can distinguish porn from real life. If one understands that porn is usually a fantasy and it is not real and it is not a real expectation, they can distinguish that from their real life and a real connection. Also, as I said before, porn is smoke and mirrors. Porn is a movie. It's a movie, and it's very often filmed with takes, especially if it's a produced porn. There's takes, there's breaks in between, and as hardcore or over the top as something might seem, for the most part it is not real and it's very staged. And again, different things with different production companies, but as a general term, porn is very much smoke and mirrors. It's very not real at all. It also can be used to learn about oneself and about one's own sexuality in a safe way where you're not harming yourself and you're not harming someone else. It can also just be a lucrative business. In watching many documentaries, a lot of I, people don't really get into the porn industry because they super, super love having sex with people. They get into it because you can make a lot of money if you're a smart business person. So if you would like to know more, some documentaries I watched and would recommend were Hot Girls Want It. It's a documentary and a show. This is me, my personal opinion. I push more towards the show. I feel like it shows pornography in a more unbiased light than the movie does. I feel like the movie definitely takes a negative view of the porn business. That was just how I felt. My friend did not feel that way, but I would recommend the show more than the movie, though there was some lawsuit issues with the show because when Hot Girls Want It, the documentary came out, the porn industry was very upset with the way it represented porn. So when they set about to make the show, they didn't tell anybody in the show that it was affiliated with Hot Girls Want It. So there's some court cases you can read about there. And then Kink is a pretty good documentary. Be forewarned, this one is extremely pornographic. So like don't watch it with your mom or anything. But it used to be on Netflix, it's not on Netflix anymore. But that one is specifically about kink.com and how that website is run. YouTube, Sexplanations. It's a really great YouTube channel. A woman. It's not just about porn. It's sort of about any sort of sex question you might have. It's a woman. She's a doctor, and she'll explain it to you in a really easy to understand way if you feel uncomfortable looking it up or if it's not something you want to learn from porn. Some books, as mentioned before, Marquis de Sade's work, Von Sacher-Masoch, Fanny Hill, and then Story of O is one I did not talk about earlier, but one that was censored a lot, and just different books to talk about your sexuality and different books from different time periods so you can see how erotica and see how written porn has changed. So if you have any questions or if you're like, Emily, I totally don't feel this way about any of the things you're talking about and I want to tell you why you're wrong. Super, do it, great, share it in the comments. I hope this has been informative. I know it's been me talking pretty quickly, but I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good week, a happy Thanksgiving, and if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, have a happy Thursday. Thanks.